Hello and welcome to Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game.
Game.
Let's meet the panel.
Jim.
Brianna.
Charlie.
And Josh. And today, what are we going over?
We are going to be discussing the work of Walt Whitman.
Ooh.
Yay.
Uh-oh.
Yay! Should be interesting, to say the very least. What's our first question?
Now, Whitman has been deemed by literary critics as America's finest poet. Are there reasons as to why, and do you agree or disagree with this statement?
You want to take this one, Jim?
Okay. Now, Whitman was the first to speak as a uniquely American voice. He was, as he said, the bard of personality. He was very supportive of the cult of the individual, but he complicated that vision of the individual as an individual who could contain collectives. He was a democratic self. In a lot of ways, he embodied everything America tried and I would argue failed to do.
I found it interesting when I was going through his collection that he is America's commentator during his generation. He wrote about himself, he wrote about his experiences, his emotions, just as much as he wrote about responses to current events. There was something about, of course there's "Oh Captain, My Captain," responding to Lincoln. He also
Lilacs left in the dooryard bloom, too, to respond to Lincoln.
There's also Whitman himself to respond to Emerson's essay, The Poet.
Mm-hmm. He responds to, he talks about Grant, he talked about the 1884 election, but he was, but the fact, he talks about his peers, just as Bree had mentioned about Emerson.
Oh, I think to say that he's America's best poet is a slippery slope.
Yeah.
That is very debatable.
He is definitely one of the best poets in American history.
Who would
You just have to
father of free verse. I mean, come on.
You just have to also, you have to put poets such as Robert Frost into the equation.
Oh, not same league as Whitman, not even close.
He has a different lens. He talks about rural America and natural America. Whitman, on the other hand, he talks about, he created his own kind of verse.
If you're going to look to Whitman's heirs and you're going to stay relatively early, you really have to look to imagism with William Carlos Williams, arguably Carl Sandburg, although he's more modernist. Ezra Pound actually admitted a great debt to Whitman, even though he was initially reluctant to.
Allen Ginsberg.
Yes, Ginsberg is late. Ginsberg comes later, but Ginsberg was very hugely Whitman influenced. Supermarket in California.
Maybe he is one of the best American poets if he influenced the greatest American poets.
Of course, you're going to be inspired by the people ahead of your time. You could be inspired by the people after your time if you are living at that point, or if you're active at that point. Of course, somebody such as Ginsberg, who was not alive during the Whitman time, Whitman's not going to say that Ginsberg or he's not going to say that this future prophet that is very colorful with how he speaks is who inspired him. Perhaps that would be his audience.
It's complicated though, because Whitman himself swore very infrequently.
Oh yeah, that he was inspired by no one and took the words just from himself.
No, I mean as far as used obscenities, if we're going to speak to Ginsberg's use of language, as far as like calling himself a Whitman heir and then departing in that sense.
Whitman was quite open with what he had to say.
Although he did not believe in swearing, and he did hate, for all his sexual openness, he was very against pornography, which is something I've argued, and a number of feminists have argued in other contexts, not specifically related to Whitman, that taking a stance against pornography is actually an anti-woman stance because it's an attempt to regulate female agency.
At the same time, if the media was looking at him today, he could be seen highly controversial. Not necessarily because of his... historians have confirmed that he was homosexual, but he had a desire for
Little woman.
boys that were men that were much younger than him. Granted, just remember, the age of consent back in his day was 10.
Which, ooh,
Well, I mean, today everything is controversial. Like the Teletubbies.
I love those
mean,
guys.
The creepy baby son actually being God. My
Yeah,
goodness.
I love
It's
the
just-
Nunu.
It's just if you're gonna read into an amazing work that is a phenomenon to be reckoned with, I think, and you're gonna find these crazy things to
Half of these.
call Whitman, like we spoke before. What did you call him? A pedophile.
Pedophile.
So if you're reading these things and getting that from Whitman's work, that's not even supposed to reflect that in the slightest. It's just so insane to me. Like when someone is watching the Teletubbies and says the purple upside down triangle is
And the
the
handbag.
gay symbol or
Oh, there's
something, right?
plenty. We'll do that. That is a whole other topic unto itself.
Oh, that's what I thought we were getting at by controversial issues.
Yeah, that's one of the controversies.
I love the vacuum
That-
Nunu.
Yes, we know.
Very much so.
What?
Our next question.
Well, it depends.
What is your favorite work by Walt Whitman?
Jim?
Oh God, so many, so many.
My favorite work would have to be, well, I'll song it myself, but I will go off course here and say Song of the Rolling Earth because of how he writes about the natural world. Which, if you've seen the episodes before this, you know that I'm a transcendentalist through and through, and so is that poem. So, that'll be it.
Oh, Captain, my Captain. This is one of my favorites. It's in memories of President Lincoln. Oh, Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship has weathered every wreck. And wreck is usually a wreck or something like that. The prize we saw is won. It's militaristic. I'm into that. I'm gonna go over and say there's the drum taps. We've noticed that I'm a drummer, and there's a lot of stuff in
Well,
there.
that collection is very rife with martial imagery because it deals with Whitman's relationship to the Civil War and how that really sort of disillusioned him and tainted his vision of America.
The one that there was a World War II version of Captain, my Captain. It was quite. I'd have to read back up on that, but it responds the way that Whitman sees his captain. It's a drastic loss. The World War II version, the captain's deemed as being dormant and asleep.
And if I may, Family Guy did a little spin-off when there's an episode when Brian walks out of the class when he was the teacher, and you can catch. I don't know what the name of the episode was. I don't watch it, but they did it something like that. And all the kids.
That's a Dead Poet Society reference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ready. My favorite Whitman poem of his is Patrolling Barnegat. I just enjoy the. It has to do with. It was inspired by Whitman's trips to the Jersey Shore.
That's where we are located at.
But otherwise, I like the way that he describes the imagery of the rapid sea. It's during this, a storm is going on, and I love the way he describes the milk water, the milk-colored waves. He refers to them as combs because that's the way they come off as they hit the shore. And it's just quite something that he captures an image of that kind of area, giving the shore its own face.
Very detailed.
It is very detailed.
It's like he's painting the picture. I think it's like he's painting a picture.
That would be correct. And Jim, what is your favorite poem by Whitman?
So, I have so many
Right.
faves, but I'm just like,
So many faves.
to pin it down, I'm going to say Native Moments, because it shows something that becomes sort of complicated as you see the progress of Whitman's career from the 1855 edition to the 1860 when this originated to the 1880 and the 1890 when Whitman becomes progressively more censored because he becomes jaded about the poet's role as a social figure. He becomes more isolate, and he starts to doubt some of the ideology of what he has said before because Victorian social and spiritual pressure starts to play on him. People have had misperceptions of him, and he's responding to that. He's very much sort of kowtowing to public opinion. He's making a PR move in the later editions.
Kowtowing?
Yes, out, full out.
I like cows.
KOWTOW.
Yeah, that means that's a form of worship. And it could also be considered kissing tail.
Anyway, so in the original form of Native Moments, there's a line where the speaker makes reference to being in love with a prostitute. Now, if any of you know anything about antebellum, pre-Civil War America, this is a time when women are first gaining sexual agency. There's Victoria Woodhull, who is campaigning for free love and for birth control. She's an extremely controversial figure on the far left of the women's suffrage movement, but she had two famous supporters. Does anyone know who they were?
Were they part of the feminist movement?
Yes.
They were women.
Susan B. Anthony?
Yes, Susan B. Anthony sided with her.
And Stanton?
Yeah, Elizabeth Cady Stanton.
Alright. Those are the two major feminists of
Yes.
the 19th century.
Yeah, so they aligned with her, and they're like, she's got something with this whole free love thing, because our agency as people is very much tied up in our capacity for reproduction, because what is capitalism without a means to reproduce workers? So once we have sexual agency, we can move toward gaining social agency. And then, so this whole complicated relationship with the prostitute is an idea of engagement with something that is progressing forward. But it's two-faced. Even this word native moments, that word native is sort of unstable. It's like native to self, native to the land, like I'm genuine in these times, and then native also meant Native American, and then so it has something of a racist undertone, implying that only the tribal people are in touch with their primalcy, and that's really not fair.
Anybody have any final points? Because I have one of my own directed toward Jim.
I do love Whitman very, very much, but he has an extremely complicated relationship with women. But there are these lines in A Woman Waits For Me that have always bothered me. It's, without shame, the man I like knows and avows the deliciousness of his sex. Without shame, the woman I like knows and avows hers. What two words are missing from the female part? Deliciousness and sex. So that makes her sexuality dependent on the male construction of it, doesn't it?
Quite a point.
And then the idea that female sex isn't delicious, which plays into delicious, it's a gustatory image, it's a sense of taste, that plays into Eve biting of the apple. This isn't the Children of Adam cluster.
I don't think children should be watching this one episode. No offense.
And then later on it comes
Whitman doesn't mingle well.
No.
He mingles a little too well with children.
I was going to say mingles
Once
very
in
well.
Canada?
Just read Sparkles from the Wheel. And then
And then later on in the same text, he goes to, "It is I, you women. I make my way. I am stern, acrid, large, undissuadable, but I love you. I do not hurt you any more than is necessary for you. I pour the stuff to start sons and daughters fit for these states. I press with slow, rude muscle. I brace myself effectually. I listen to no entreaties. I dare not withdraw till I deposit what has so long accumulated within me. Through you I drain the pent-up river of myself." It's like,
Very possessive.
yes, it's totally about his coming inside her. She's totally a vessel for his seed, for his sense of democracy, for his furthering the republic. She's alien to his sense of reproductivity that is being pushed into her.
If you're interested in reading deeper into the work of Walt Whitman,
And you should be.
this is the cream of the crop. I really can't suggest any other legitimate source. This has just about everything you need. And you could check out Major American Poets if you're into the major works from different writers aside from Whitman. But this Norton Critical Edition is probably
Full of
the
Yeah, you know,
best
this
you're going to
one
read.
is all beat up. I've annotated it. I do love this book. For all my frustration with the speaker's ideology, for all the stuff I've tried to suss out, I do love this poetry. Whitman is easily one of my favorite poets. It goes, as far as males, it goes Whitman, Neruda, Cesar Vallejo.
Ready, before I sign off, I just want to mention that this is for a guy named Moores in a van down by the river.
It is.
And until next time,
Keep reading.
keep reading.